The Wave contact lens system allows you to create some incredibly customized contact lens based on the topography of your individual patient. So when you first open the software, it might seem a bit overwhelming. Well, this video is here to cut through all the clutter and show you exactly all it takes to create a contact lens on pretty much any cornea. So what you're going to see is a simple 7-step process that we use to design pretty much any contact lens we might want. We first change the diameter, then the design mode, size of the optic zone, placement in the intermediate curves, switch a few things, and let the software do its thing. That right lens is complete. After analyzing the left topography, we'll make the same changes. I'll change the diameter, the design mode, placement of the OZ, placement of the IC, and let the software run. Let's take a look at the right lens. We can just look at the back curvature. See, we have a nice back surface that matches the cornea. Come back to quad view, and we'll just analyze the lens. Looks good. Any final changes we might want to make? And then we simply save it and order it. Let's look at the left. Looks good. This is the back curvature view. That's the cornea. They look good. Any more changes we want to make? I'll adjust the center thickness on this one. That's it. Save and order it. Right and left lenses created for these patients in under 2 minutes. So in this video series, you're going to go through a simple step-by-step process, 7 steps to be exact, on what to look at in the topography and how to put it into the system to create your custom contact lenses for your patient in no time. While I designed that previous pair of lenses fairly quick, you might say, yeah, that was a simple, straightforward cornea. But that same process works on pretty much every style of cornea you'll come across with Wave. As long as you have a good topography, Wave will assist you in designing a great contact lens. So there are really only a few parameters that we need to worry about in Wave. And yeah, as you get more into it and go through all the training in more detail, you'll understand more of it and you can really customize your lens and do some advanced type of designs. But to get started, think of it as we have 7 steps to design any contact lens. That's really all we need. The first step is going to be the diameter, and we'll select that pretty much based on the cornea itself or if the patient's been wearing a previous lens design. And step number 2, choose the lens design mode. This is the biggest thing with Wave. If you choose the lens design mode correctly for the cornea, odds are you're going to have a successful fit. And simple. If the lens is spherical, we choose RSIM, which is radial symmetric. If it's symmetric, as in astigmatism, we choose GSIM, which is geometrically symmetric. And if the cornea is asymmetric, as in keratoconus, we choose freeform. This is basically telling Wave what style of lens you want. And if you get this right, your lens is probably going to come out perfect. Optic zone placement. Where are we going to place the OZ? On a regular cornea, it usually goes between 5.6 and 6.4. And on a regular cornea, it's not going to make a huge difference in the contact lens design. It's more in the advanced cases where you really want to be a little more precise about where it goes. And on an irregular cornea, you simply look for the area of increased deepening. The IC placement on a regular cornea, you really want to place it about 1 to 1.4 millimeters beyond the optic zone. Don't think of it as adjusting the contact lens so much. The IC placement is going to give you another control point if it's necessary to adjust, say, edge lift or mid-peripheral clearance down the road. And on an irregular cornea, you want to place the IC beyond the area of steepening if possible, otherwise about 2 millimeters beyond the OZ. Now you have all your placements there, you just need to run the software. And that's it. Once the software is done designing the lens, you come back and just review the design. Make sure you approve of it, make sure it looks good, and any final changes you want to make to it. Say it's a multifocal or you want to adjust the center thickness. And that's it. Save and order. So print this sheet out. We're going to go through these steps in more detail, and you'll see how quick and simple it really is to design a custom Wave contact lenses for even the most demanding patients. Okay, as we run through these 7 steps, we'll use this cornea as the initial example to design a lens, and then when we're done, we'll run through a few others just to show all in one so we can quickly design some lenses. So the first step is choosing the diameter. And the question says, does the patient currently wear gas perm lenses? So if this patient had already worn a lens and I wanted to make it larger, my general rule is don't go more than half a millimeter larger. You run into some comfort and possibly handling issues. So if this patient came in and say was wearing a 9.0 lens, I'd probably design a 9.5 wave. In this case, it's a soft toric lens wearer who wasn't having good success with vision. So we're going to design from scratch new gas perm wear. I have the grid up here. The grid itself shows full 12 millimeters, so we can just eye this and see the cornea goes off the screen a little bit here, and then ends at about 11.3, 11.4. So just from that, I can guess the cornea is about an 11.7. I can also just throw the caliper up here, right-click, caliper on, and that's going to say right there it's showing me about an 11.5. So an 11.7 is probably about the size of the diameter of this cornea. So I would choose in this case, given the guidelines on the spreadsheet, to go no larger or select a diameter that is about 0.8 to 1.5 millimeters smaller. I would go with probably a 10.8 to an 11 on this. So I'm going to go with a 10.8 diameter on this particular cornea for a new gas perm wearer. Now that we've selected the diameter for this contact lens, we can move on to the proper design mode to use. So we're still analyzing the cornea itself. We haven't opened the software yet, but we want to know if we're going to design in RSIM, which is radial symmetric, GSIM, which is geometrically symmetric, or freeform, which is used for asymmetric corneas. So looking at this cornea, we're going to ask ourselves, one, is it spherical? And we can look at this and say, no, it's not spherical. We have a fairly large band of cilia going across the cornea here. And if we look at the values here, we have almost 5 diopters of corneal cylinder. So this is not a spherical cornea. Next question is the cornea symmetric? And if we look at it in I like to look at it in halves. Is the top of the cornea similar to the bottom of the cornea? And it is. We have this band of cilia which goes straight up and down here. So I would definitely say this is a good GSIM candidate. And third is the cornea asymmetric? Asymmetric is more for irregular corneas, inferior keratoconus, things like that. So this one is not in that sense. I would design this lens in GSIM. So next thing we can do is go ahead and open up the software, and we will get on to the actual lens design. So before we move on to step number 3, which is optic zone placement, I've opened up the software here, and now we'll just enter in the values. This is the default design as it opened up. So we're just going to enter in the diameter, because that was step 1, 10.8, and then we're going to enter in the design mode, which is RSIM, GSIM, or freeform. And looking at the cornea, we decided on GSIM, so I'll just select GSIM. And that's all there is to that. Next thing we're going to move is the optic zone, which is this red dot here. As right now Wave has it set at 6.2. That's just by default. It came up as one value. We changed the diameter, so it shifts around a little bit. But we're going to look at the cornea, and in most corneas, on a regular cornea, we're looking for that area in the mid-periphery where we have the most change, where this color sometimes goes from a yellow to a green, or a green to a bluish. In this case, when you have cylinder, you want to see where the cylinder kind of ends about. And the optic zone is going to just maintain that same rate of curvature until this red dot. So that's our central base curve. So in this case, I want the central base curve to come out to about the end of this cylinder here, and inferiorly. It kind of closes off here and opens up a bit more, but that's okay. We still want to kind of keep in that average area. So in this case, it's right in between this 5 millimeter ring and 7 millimeter ring. So I'd probably put it right about 6 millimeters. If we follow that all the way around, that seems like a good spot for the central base curve of the contact lens. So I'll just grab this red dot and move it over to 6 millimeters. And I'm going to combine step 3 and 4, because the IC placement, which is this blue dot over here, it's really just another control point to think of in that far mid periphery of the contact lens. So on a normal cornea, we really just keep it about 1 millimeter to 1.4 millimeters beyond the optic zone. It gives us a nice area to control the lens down the road if it's needed. So since this is a normal cornea, I'll put this at, it was right at a 7.4, and that should give us a nice back surface to the lens right there. So now we're up to step number 5, which is really to run the software. There are two modes with the wave contact lens design. We can either design in tangential mode or axial mode. I prefer axial mode. In the videos, as you go through all of them, you'll see more detail on what the difference between them is. I just find axial mode to be more comfortable in most cases, so I switch over to axial mode, and you'll notice that just create a little bit of a different view on the display here. And then once we have all our values here, so we've entered the key components, we've entered the diameter, we've entered the design mode, whether RSIM, GSIM, or freeform, we've entered where the OZ is and where we want the IC, and we've switched over to axial mode. Then we just go auto design, current settings. So we're telling Wave now to run through all the settings we've inputted and create a lens that's going to align nicely with this cornea. And now if you look at the back curvature, we've got a nice looking contact lens as far as, switch to back curvature view here. So you'll notice it matches and it has a nice blend out in the periphery. We have this bandicil centrally that matches nicely with the cornea. And next we're going to move on to reviewing the design. So this is step 6, the design review. What we're really looking for here is that we don't have any funny glitches or hiccups in this lens. Usually on a normal cornea we have a nice flow all the way out towards the periphery. We shouldn't have any big bumps or divots. Now the reason we have this drop here is because we have a steeper curvature, and then the lens needs to drop and land nicely in the periphery. So it's just that adjustment between those two rates of curvature there. So we come all the way around. Notice this tiny bump here. That's really not going to create any issue on the lens, but if you would like to, you can always switch to 25% mode and click down on the red dot and up on the blue dot, and then you'll notice we have a much smoother transition. One click up or down really isn't going to make much, but it just looks cleaner on our initial design. So we want to look at that back curvature to ensure we have smooth transition zones. Then we're going to look at the fluorescein. You can do this all in quad view as well. And I'll just up this a little bit to make sure that everyone can see it. And we should have, this is pretty much what you should see on the cornea itself. We should have a little clearance as we get over these steep areas of the cornea here. We should have nice alignment all the way throughout, and a nice a little bit of edge lift around to let a little tear flow in there. And then if we like this design as we see it, then we want to just check the central thickness and the edge thickness. Since this is a plus power lens, we don't have to worry about the lens being too thin and flexing on us, so 0.3 is okay. If it's a minus lens, you want to make sure you don't end up ordering something that's too thin. It might flex on the eye. The edge thickness, anywhere between 0.14 and 1.6 I think is a good place to go. Since this is a higher central thickness, I'd probably bump this down to a 1.4 to take some of that mass out. And if this were a multifocal, we would just come to the front curvature view, and this is how we would adjust the multifocal. In this case it's not. I'm just bringing that up because it's on our checklist here. And that's really it for the design review. Once we like the looks of this, then we just save it. And now that we've designed the lens and looked at it and made sure we approve of it, simply save it and order it. Now we have two options here. We can just save it and that'll put it over into our database, or we can hit order, and order will order the lens and then save it. I suggest saving it first and then reopening it and ordering it, just so you don't order it and forget to hit the save button. So if we hit save, it'll bring up everything here. We can choose the delivery we like, the material. It's right here, whether it's right or left. This should already be filled in for you. You can select if you're going to dot the right lens or not. The material, and then the color of the material is over here, so you can choose that, whether it's you want to warranty the lens or if it's an exchange, if you want to fenestrate or plasma treat the lens. If it is an exchange, you want to write the reason for the exchange down here. If you want to send a message directly to Wave, you can enter it here. Keep in mind this will send the order to Wave, so they have to review the message before it goes to the lab, so don't write anything like please rush this order, because it will actually slow it down. And then clinical notes, these are simply for you if you want to keep track of any changes you're making on the lens, or anything that you want to have for your own internal use there. And then once this is done, you simply hit accept, and that'll bring up this screen which will save the lens, and it'll check off the lens here. This is right lens number 2, and I'll hit save. And now in your database view, which I'm sorry is off the display here, you should have your lens number 2, so I'll just open that up again. And now once I have that, saved, then I'm going to hit the order button, and this is going to actually bring up a screen that says, are you sure? I'll say yes, and it'll bring this screen up again, so if you wanted to make any changes again or just review everything is okay there. Then once you hit accept, it will display a message that that your lens has been ordered, and that's all there is to it. So now we're going to go through a few other simple lens designs from start to finish. I'm not going to run through chapters on each step. We'll just show you when you put it all together really how simple this is. And keep in mind, if you have not gone through the initial training yet, some of these concepts may just seem a little confusing, but once you go through the training and more things are explained in detail, like axial versus tangential, or what the OZ really does on the contact lens, this will make a lot more sense, and you'll see you can really design lenses in just a matter of minutes. Thanks.